And can you see the initial KEPRS sign-on screen? Well, it just says welcome to KEPRS.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
I can see that, Rich.
Okay, I just unmuted everybody so I can hear you all now at this point.
Yes, I can see.
Okay, thank you. I asked a question and I had everybody muted. Doesn't help.
I'm hearing yours, but I'm not hearing mine.
Yep, I can hear yours now.
Can you hear mine, Rich?
Yep, sure can.
Alrighty.
Can you hear me, Rich? It's Sue.
Yes, I can hear you, Sue. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Everybody sounds cheery for a Monday.
It's not raining.
Yeah, that's true too.
Rich, will we see you at the EPSB meeting in June?
Yes, both at the meeting and also at the CACD meeting.
Okay, great.
Well, I've got it's almost noon, and we may get a few additional folks. So I guess the first thing I'd like to ask everybody is if you are able to see that KEPRS screen, and I will back this up, and we can start over from just
Turn yours up loud so I can hear it.
You can hear it.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay.
I see the screen and there's a flashing underlined what's new in red, sort of in the center.
Perfect. And we're on the right page.
Okay, good. minor details.
For those of you I haven't met, although I think I've met I've met everybody on here. This is I'm Richard Miller, and I'm with the EPSB, and I thought it would be a good time going into summer right now, although I know a lot of people are on vacation and taking breaks, but to start kind of a monthly meeting whereby I could review things that have changed, things we've updated, things that we're working on, kind of what's coming next, and then just kind of open it up for question and answer period. So if you've got any questions, we can bring up a screen, look at the fields, and answer questions that you might have about how KEPRS works, and any questions you might have about the fields of information that are out there. So I sent out a little bit of an attachment that came along with the calendar invite, and what I wanted to cover is that what's new flashing that you should see on your screen. And if and when after you've signed in, first of all, let me ask, is there anybody who has not been able to sign in or sign on to KEPRS? And I'll make sure to follow up with you and make sure you've got an ID and a password where you can get into KEPRS.
No, we're good at Midway.
All right.
We're good at UPI.
All right.
Good at Asbury.
Yay.
AIU is fine.
Yay. Apologize. I got a frog.
This is Andrea Peach at Georgetown.
Hey, Andrea. Morning.
Hey.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. The what's new that should be flashing on your screen, and it depends on the size or which browser you're using. You may see that as a larger what's new, but relatively speaking, it should say what's new. When you click on that, you will see the KEPRS technical guide. So there's a user guide, technical guide that you would see when you click on that. And it's about 40, 50 pages long of, screenshot by screenshot and hopefully field by field explanation of what these fields mean. So if you are just getting started, it might be a good idea to click on what's new, maybe download and print the document so you can kind of use it, at your on your desk side and use it as a point of reference. And I try to keep that up to date. I mean, we're always making changes, updating and enhancing some of these views and how you see things. So about once a month, I try to make sure that that document has been updated to reflect what's current. Okay?
Yep.
Any questions on what's new? Cool. Let me go to program closure, because that is a new module that we've rolled out. And you would be able to see this when you hover over the Home tab. In the second column, under the program design, at the very bottom, it says Program Closure. And I'll bring that program up, and you will be able to see that only if you have permissions. So unless you have the program manager permissions, you will not be able to see program closure. So since it's relatively new, there's probably half of you out there who do not have permissions. So you'll need to ask whoever it is that's your security admin person to update your view so you can see the program closure. And this is a fairly simple application, so I'll just walk through it. And I'm using University of Kentucky, but this is all test data. Test, 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 test. There's nothing in here that's real, folks. It may resemble reality, but it's not. So under program category, there is a drop-down list, and it will show you only the programs that are currently active. So if I go into agriculture, I can see I've got 2 programs. And as you read across here, there are no students currently enrolled in either of these agriculture programs. Go to the next one. Let me look at art. I've got 4 programs that are currently active. 3 of them have no students. And 2 of them, that is program number 579, that has 2 students in it. Let me click another one. I'll just go down to Chinese, and you get the idea here. If I pick these and I go to Director of Special Ed, I see the number of programs and the number of students that might currently be in those programs. Any questions yet?
Nope.
Pretty straightforward. Let me go back to art. And I take one of these programs that I'd like to close. Maybe I'm going to close my 406. This is Art Traditional Advanced Masters. I'm going to say close program. I get a nice little pop-up. It reminds me I have no students in the pipeline. Therefore, no teach-out plan is required. I select my reason to close, and I'm open to suggestions on adding reasons. But in earlier discussions, we kind of came up with these 4 key reasons. One is just lack of candidates, lack of clinical educators, an EPP policy to reduce overhead and expense, lack of future demand for this credential. But if you've got something that doesn't fit one of these categories, please send me an email, and we will look at adding one of those reasons to this for closing these programs. So let me pick EPP policy to reduce overhead. And I'll say submit. It says that it's processing. And I get a little pop-up telling me successfully closed program. I'll say okay. It clears the screen. Let me go back to art. And I can now see that that program is gone and is no longer listed in my list of active programs.
Does it get saved anywhere as a program that had existed in the past?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. We still keep records. And what actually comes out of this is an email is automatically sent to the person who closed the program. And an email goes to Allison or whoever on staff is covering EPSB so that they get a record of a closed program.
Okay.
So let me give you another example. Let me pick art again, but this time I'll pick the one that has students in it. Code 579 is Art Traditional Advanced, rank 1. Let me close that program. It says the teach-out plan is required. Yes, because I've got students in the pipeline.
Okay.
So now I select a reason and I say, you know, maybe I'm losing my clinical educator. It's a small class. I'm going to say lack of clinical educators. And now it asks me to attach my teach-out plan. And in this case, I'm going to pick a PDF that's not too big. Let's see here. ACEI rubric sample. I'm just grabbing a PDF to attach it as an example. I attach what should be my teach-out plan. Now when I hit submit, processing. And again, the result is an email is sent back to the person who closed the program, and an email goes to Allison here at EPSB with a record of that teach-out file.
Okay.
Okay? Any questions on program closure? This one's pretty simple. It's just a couple of steps.
Yeah, it's really straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, and a teach-out plan is like a curriculum guide showing how the plan for the student to complete the program.
Yes, but it could be a couple of things. In addition to your curriculum guide for those who are still in the pipeline to complete, if that's your plan, or maybe you're going to transfer students to another school.
Okay.
So whatever your plan is, draw it up to a document, and you can attach either a PDF or a Word document. Either one is fine.
Okay.
But we need some record as to what your plans are as you close this program.
Okay.
Now, in the program manager, what we do here administratively is we'll put an end date on the program, and currently we're extending the what's called a grandfather date, or it's the date of last recommendation, goes out 2 years, and we may want to change that to 3 years. And that's simply saying that as an institution, you can only recommend that student or candidate who's in the pipeline for that credential for the next 2 years. After that, it's no longer valid.
Okay.
So we don't really have a firm policy in place right now, but so for now we're putting it out there 2 years. If that is not satisfactory, then you'll need to contact the EPSB to extend the date beyond that.
Question real quick.
Yep.
That 2-year or 3-year grandfather clause would work for most advanced certification programs,
Yeah.
but wouldn't necessarily work for initial certification.
Correct. If you had someone who's just entering the pipeline, there's a good chance you might need a 3rd year or a 4th year. And if that's the case, then I would, in your program closure, I would request that, you know, your last recommendation date be set out 3 years.
Okay, so that's where we would take care of that.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions on program closure?
Well, I guess I have a little one. Because just recently we've had a couple people resurface after a few years out wanting to complete a program that we were sort of phasing out and
Yep.
allow them back in. So how would that work if you completely close the program and then somebody pops up 2-3 years later, they're just out of luck, or?
No, I think it has to be handled on an exception basis. I mean, may have a perfectly valid reason. They were, overseas for a couple of years and then came back, and they still felt that they had the, the proper credentials to seek. The proper credits to seek a credential. In that case, I think you need to contact us at the EPSB, and make us aware of what your, the situation is.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go to the new audit reports. And again, unless you've gotten permissions, you may or may not see these audit reports. So I hover back over the home tab. I'm going to slide over to the reporting tab, and the first module there is audit reports. So I'm going to select audit reports. And in my case, I've got special permissions here to actually pick any institution. You will not. When you pull up your audit reports, you will see a list that pertains only to your college or university or EPP. But in my case, I get to select one. And I'm going to drop on down here to University of Kentucky. It runs this audit report, and if there were any issues found. Now, if you've got any questions about any one of these reports, we can go through it, because I suspect this is probably new for a lot of you, but I wanted to highlight the bottom two, which were ones that we've recently added. But just below the EPP with no quality system attached, we've got something called Assessments Dynamics. And again, this is all test data. And for UK, I've got 77 issues. So let me highlight Assessment Dynamics, bring up that report. Can you all see it?
Yeah.
Okay. What this is showing me is a list by assessment when the assessment was created. So it shows the academic year in which the assessment was created, the program name that it's attached to, and what we're calling the link date. So if I created an assessment and I linked it to a program, that's the academic year, and what I'm calling that's the dynamic, that's the activity, is that the assessment was linked to a program, or the next column over, it was delinked. So maybe we've had an assessment that's been around for several years, we're no longer using it, we're going to phase it out, and we've delinked it from a program. That would show up as an activity as well. So this isn't so much really an issue as it is just making you aware. If you run this report, you can see all of these activities that are going on where your assessments have been created or linked or unlinked. So someone who's like an assessment coordinator at your EPP can see these dynamics. So most of these reviews, most of these grid views in the audit reports allow you to change the number of line items you see per page. So at the bottom, I'm going to change that to all. And you can see how it changes the view. I can now scroll through all of these assessments that have had some dynamics, either when they were created, when they were linked, or when they were unlinked. Now, if there's some...
Yeah, when you say dynamics, you mean issues, right?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to back off from the word issue, typically meaning something negative. And all this really is something has happened with your assessments.
Got it.
That's all it means.
Okay.
Now, if you want to do some analysis on this, like so many of the grids that we are providing, you can export to Excel. Click the export. This is called export 4. Let me save it. I bring up the export. Now I've got an Excel version of that grid view. So now you can go in here and sort, fold, manipulate, spindle to your heart's content.
Gotta love Excel.
Okay, any questions on report 15 13. We had another one that was for field days, but we've deleted that because it really is relatively meaningless. So we backed off of that report. The last report we have here is just called Initial Programs Field Hours. And this is simply a tabulation of the number of clinical field hours you've provided and if it meets the 200-hour test.
Okay.
So when I click on that, it'll give me a list, and it's saying here at UK, again, this is sample data, that it has found 13 of my programs that are below that 200 field hour mark. Okay. And again, I can export this if I had a long list and I wanted to do some analysis, or I wanted to cross compare the number of field hours to what I had in my curriculum guides, etc. I can go back and look at that. Any questions on initial program field hours? Okay. I'll go back to the main report and ask, are there any questions on any of these audit reports? Because there's a bunch. And these are really meant to help you as you begin to build your inventory of information in the KEPRS system. We're finding that it does happen occasionally where some information may get orphaned. You may have created a course, or temporarily you've set up a bunch of courses and you haven't assigned faculty yet, or you don't have any faculty that's qualified to teach the courses, but that's to be determined. And this would show up here. Or if you've got courses with it's not tied to any programs, this would help you isolate and find those. So there's quite a few to select from here. And again, if you've got any suggestions or recommendations on something that you would like to see in an audit report, please let us know. We'll see if we can add it to this list of audit reports.
Rich, I got a question, and I don't know if it's relevant to what we're doing here.
Sure.
But I had actually emailed Margaret and asked about what standards we should be using for the advanced programs.
Okay.
And she sent me a link to the new standards that I think go into effect in 2019. I was trying to reduce the screen so I can send them to you, but I can't reduce the screen here. And I'm wondering, for the advanced certification programs, what set of
Which
standards?
programs are you talking about?
Hey, Allison. Hi, Allison. It's for
which
the,
programs are you talking about?
It's for the MEd teacher leader.
Okay. The teacher leader model standards were adopted by the board. So those will be the ones that you address in the teacher leader programs.
Okay. Now those, I thought that the link said they go into effect in 2019, but we should use those now.
If you're working on it, you can go on and be transitioning.
Got it. Okay.
During the June board meeting, I'm going to do a presentation to the board on an implementation plan for those teacher leader standards.
That's what I needed. Yay.
In 2 weeks, there's going to be information put out there about how that rollout's going to happen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. We nailed that one.
Oh, you just made my week. My month.
While we're on it, any other questions on standards? Because the Kentucky Teacher Performance Standards, which go into effect July 1st, are out there. So if you are out there building your courses and linking them to standards or aligning to standards, and also your assessments aligning to standards, you should be using the KTPS, the performance standards.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me go show you some things that we've been enhancing on the inventory view. And again, you would need permissions to look at the program inventory.
Rich, can
Yes.
I ask you a quick question? This is Tony.
Yeah, hey, Tony.
Did you fix that issue that we had talked about or ran into a couple weeks ago with the
Remind me, which one?
adding the KTPS standards?
You should be able to see them.
Well, I could see them, but there was an error message when I tried to add them as to the assessment. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and we couldn't recreate the problem back here. I think, if that's the right one that I'm thinking of.
You connected with me and we did it. You saw it online on
Yep.
my system.
Yep. Let me, have you tried it since?
I have not. I can certainly do that. You thought it was a pointer with that particular standard set.
And we should be okay.
I'll go back and try it again later today, and if the issue reoccurs, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I apologize, Tony. I know, because I've been, every time I get a call and there's a problem or an issue, I typically go over and talk with Neeraj, who's in the office next to me, and he's pretty quick at fixing these things. And sometimes he'll identify, well, I was doing something wrong, or the query was slightly wrong, or I didn't double check. He fixes a lot of things that sometimes I don't see, or I don't go back and retest.
Okay, so, I'll give it a shot.
All right, thank you. Let me go into the inventory views. So I hover over the Home tab. I go to that third row where it says Program Review, Program Inventory. And again, I'm running a test environment. And so what I see is I'm under University of Kentucky. I have to pick a program so I can see some of the details. So let me go pick 846 for agriculture. And I should be able to see the clinical educators. Here, Edward DeMint and Richard Miller are two of the educators that I have for agriculture. I can look at the courses. I can look at the assessments. And here's some example of the grid view that we've changed. This used to be just a line of information with very little ability to do anything about it. And what we're now seeing is this list of assessments or standards or responses is getting longer and longer and longer and difficult to manage. So what we have done is each of these columns have some Excel-like capabilities. I can sort by the title. I can sort by the group name. I can sort by the area name. So just about any one of these columns, if I click on it, you'll see it can sort alphabetically or reverse order. I can also filter by some of these. So if I go in and I say I want to filter by INI and it shows me initial exam 2, I can pick on that. It will show me or filter only those assessments that started with INI. Okay, so let me drop that filter. Maybe I wanted to look at just my initial group assessments. I can take that column, and if I click and hold and I drag it to this column up here, it will group the assessments. Yeah, so a lot of our views, folks, did not have this. So this is a recent enhancement that you'll be able to take some of these columns and group them, filter them. It'll make it much, much easier to go through some of these lengthy lists, especially if we get into things like standards. Because once you start aligning the standards, you know, either by course alignment or by assessment alignment, these lists will begin to explode.
Yeah, they will.
And get very, very long. So if you're concerned about a particular assessment area, you can take that column again, drag it up, group it by assessment area.
Okay.
That'll make it much easier to walk through these. And we've added the export to Excel. So let me export this to Excel. It says assessment standards. Now remember, what I see in Excel is based upon what I'm seeing in the grid. So if I have grouped or filtered or sorted, that is the way that I will export it into Excel. So in this case, oops, did I delete that? That wasn't good, Rich. Let me export it again. Well, I see what it did. It just put it on the other screen for me. I grouped by assessment area. So what I've got here right now in Excel is grouped by assessment area. So I've got assessment area here, assessment of professional capabilities. I've got 2 line items of initial exam 2, but they're meeting different standards, 3 and 5. I've got assessment area, candidate knowledge. And I've got about 5 of them here for advanced, 5 of them for, and I'm sorry, that's the name of the actual assessment. I can go over then and take a look at which standards were being addressed. So I'm open to suggestions on how to improve these views and the exports and the fields that you see. Please send us an email and we'll try to make your enhancements a part of these views. Any questions on the new inventory views and the new capabilities by column, being able to sort and filter and export to Excel?
Just a big thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'll go back to KEPRS. And really that's about all that I had planned in terms of trying to show you some of the things that are new, some of the new modules, some of the enhanced functions that we've made in KEPRS. And I am open to whatever additional questions you might have. Let me ask the group, is this a good idea, kind of doing this on a monthly basis? Does Monday work out? Does noon work out? Any thoughts?
This is Jeanette. I think it's fabulous. Being so new, I just find this very helpful. And yes, this is a good time for me.
Me too.
Cool.
Yeah, this is really, really helpful. And I will send an email to you requesting that we add another name to the list.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, this is really helpful. And it's easy to make time during lunch.
Yeah, that's what I kind of figured. I figured it's, people eat lunch at their desk. Why not, watch a little conference call at the same time?
Okay.
Very good. Well, thanks, everyone. Again, if you have any thoughts, suggestions, enhancements, send me a note. I'm just, rich.miller@ky.gov.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rich.
You
Take
bet.
care.
See you, Manish.
Okay, how do I close out? I'm waiting.